You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio. Here at the BQN Network, we support and express solidarity for all of the writers and actors that have brought us the stories we passionately speak about. We continue to show love to all that are fighting the good fight for the WGA, SAG-AFTRA, and any upcoming strikes. We stand with you.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast, here on the BQN Podcast Collective. I'm your host for today, Thad, and joining me is my co-host, Chrissy. How are you today?
I was about to try to do a Mark Twain accent, but that wasn't happening. So we'll just say I'm discussing the watering schedule of the plants in the house with my roommate.
A house divided in twain cannot stand.
There you go. There you go.
Also joining us today is someone who actually works on Star Trek, which automatically makes him way cooler than either of us. It's Aaron Waltke of Star Trek Prodigy.
I say, sorry, my father-in-law told me my Georgian accent just sounds like Foghorn Leghorn. So
honestly, that works.
It does. It does. And I'll tell you what, because when Freeman was trying to do that accent, that's exactly what popped into my head.
Yeah, the moral arc of history bends. Hello, nice to meet you both, podcast-wise.
Yes, thank you. It's good to meet you, podcast-wise too.
Yeah, I was very excited when you told me that yes, you would be willing to come on and talk about Star Trek that you didn't make, because I just thought that would be more fun.
It's actually a bit of a relief.
I'd imagine.
I am happy to talk about all Star Trek forever. You know, I have that habit where people are like, oh, we'll just do a quick 10 minutes, and then it's like 40 minutes later, and they're like, oh, he's still going.
Oh, yeah.
See?
Before we jump into our topic for the day, which is obviously Star Trek, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons who make our show possible, particularly our associate producers, Cara Wonders and Chrissie De Clerck-Szilagyi. Listeners, you can hear your name listed as one of our associate producers for a monthly subscription of just $10 at patreon.com/BQN. And with a monthly Patreon subscription of just $5, you can join our meetings of the Hive Mind. Watch your Patreon messages for details. I don't think we have any Star Trek news.
Not even any spiders this week.
I actually chuckled at this week's very short treks, so I guess that's news.
That was a thing. It was.
Well,
yeah.
they asked me to write one, which is coming out next week. I hope people enjoy it. It was sort of, they basically let me write whatever I wanted. So as long as it was sort of had a certain humorous element to it. Mine is a little bit more of, I would say if Philip K. Dick did more comedy, I guess, is sort of the best I can say without spoiling anything.
Okay.
That sounds great, actually.
Yeah, that sounds better than the other ones we've seen.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have to get into it, but I have noticed there's some people that really liked some episodes and some people that dislike others, which honestly sounds like Star Trek to me.
Sure.
But obviously this is a pretty bold, the short treks or the very short treks, I should say, are a very different sort of swing, very much harkening back, created by Casper Kelly, and very much harkening back to like the C-Lab 2021 era.
Yes.
Humor, which I watched very late at night in college. So,
yes.
Yeah, I liked it back then. I don't know if I would enjoy C-Lab 2021 if it came out today, though.
Well, it's hard to say, you know. How many Cheetos were you eating?
Right.
I think people will like it. The episode I wrote was called Holograms All the Way Down. Obviously the title is a pun based on the Terry Pratchett phrase. And I think you'll see why very quickly.
The screen cap we saw in the original promotion that shows the some of the lower deckers on the holosuite on DS9 is from that one.
It is indeed, yes. I won't say much more, but I will say I think I broke both Star Trek's record and my own record for most Star Trek cameos from different shows in the shortest amount of time. In a way, I was sort of parodying myself, I guess, from the episode Kobayashi that I wrote for Star Trek. I kept putting people in, and they kept not saying anything. They're like, "Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that sounds fine."
Kobayashi was also quite good.
Oh, thank
yes.
You. It's so interesting. This is a complete tangent.
We never do that here.
No, not allowed.
The other day we were we're still making season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy. We never stopped, I should say, despite to quote Mark Twain, despite rumors to the contrary.
That's nice.
But we're still making season 2. We've mixed up through episode 13 now, and still on track to finish the rest by the end of the year. And while there, the Hagemans were like, you realize, with the exception of maybe a couple people at Secret Hideout, you have seen more Star Trek than any other Star Trek fan on the planet. which I was like, oh my God, with great power comes great responsibility. Because I've seen all of the legacy shows, and right. I've read the scripts for all of the new ones, and are just by virtue of Prodigy's seasons being 20 episodes instead of 10. I've seen more episodes of Prodigy than the other shows. So it's crazy.
Well, I very much hope the rest of us do get a chance to see those episodes.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, as we said at Star Trek Las Vegas, things are trending very positively. We're like 99% sure it's going to land, but these deals take a very long time to sort out. Yeah. They're complicated. But I think, just keep the faith. And I think we'll have some good news if, just keep hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy in your hearts, on your timelines, and in aerial sky banners flying over the streamers.
Yes.
That was amazing. I don't know if we actually mentioned that in the news when that happened, but fans actually got the money together to pay for a plane with a banner behind it that saved Star Trek Prodigy to fly over the headquarters of various streaming companies in LA, and that is awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible, and it's obviously not without precedent, both within the Star Trek fandom and in the sort of modern era we have of saving shows. It similar campaigns happened with Timeless, I think Warrior Nun, and there was one other one.
The Expanse.
The Expanse, yes. Mm-hmm. And they, and at least in 2 of those, if not 3, they also flew aerial banners over, and then they got more seasons at a new network. So nice. I'll take that as a good sign. It's like Odin's Raven flying over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we step away from this, I want to ask a question in seriousness. We were talking about the strike earlier.
Yes.
And as I understand, you're in a different part of the guild, or a different guild.
Yes. Okay? So that's the reason we can continue to make Star Trek Prodigy is that a lot of the, if not all of the animation through CBS Productions, which is their animation wing of CBS, is through the Animation Guild rather than the Writers Guild, which, our contract is still good. We're still in good standing with AMPTP. We don't renegotiate until next year, in which case all bets are off, but,
absolutely. Yeah.
And it's a very weird sort of, you have to keep a dual mind about it, because I'm also a member of the WGA. But the WGA has said, as long as the studio hasn't asked me to promote something, I'm allowed to talk about stuff I like.
And I think you're safe in this case. The studio is not going to promote the shows that they're not going to air.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, I should distinguish though that like CBS Studios and Paramount Plus are kind of two different branches, and they produce. They're kind of just the same way that ABC Studios could sometimes produce content for CBS, and that sort of thing. They're kind of different entities, even though they're all owned by the same octopus that is Paramount Global. But that's the case with all things in capitalism. KFC and Taco Bell are owned by Yum brands. Okay.
Which also owns Pepsi and Pizza Hut.
Exactly.
Which is why KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell are pretty much the only fast food places where you get Pepsi instead of Coke.
True. And it's the reason why they had that killer song, the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell.
So you mentioned your guys' contract is due to be renegotiated next year. Is that like a January 1st thing? Is there a possibility we might have even more overlap and put even more pressure on them?
It's been a minute since I've checked, but I believe that it's like mid next year, and even more complicated, as you can imagine. There are different contracts that are kind of staggered, like waterfall. Like I remember last negotiation, the overall I think they call it the master agreement with TAG had expired when we were pushing for better pay for animation writers, better minimums. But then the Nickelodeon animation contract was negotiated separately. Like they don't have the AMPTP quite the same way that,
of course.
So it was this weird thing where we were still under contract working on Star Trek Prodigy, but the rest of the union was like, oh, we might have to go on strike, and then we'll have to go on strike 2 months later. It was very strange. But that's just the nature of collective bargaining. You kind of have to piece it together where you can. And I think Nick came at a later time, which is why it was not part of the master agreement. But yeah, so if it overlaps, that would be significant, because that would mean it would go on for another 6 months or something like that, which, knock on wood, it does feel like people they're not as far apart as you would think. And I think that obviously with SAG in the mix, the rest of the year is not off the table, and plus you have to figure out the fine tuning of the deals and stuff. So that's all still up in the air. I do recommend, as far as the rumor mills go around the strikes, try to ignore the propaganda where you can, and just look at the official release statements from ideally the WGA, but joint statements as well. Because those are the only real hard facts that you can go off of, which is they are meeting again as of this recording to figure it out. And it's my sincere hope that we can all get back to work soon, which I believe is the sentiment shared by the WGA, but we also all want a fair contract so that our profession continues and we can focus on making great stories like Star Trek, like what you're about to hear us talk about. And that's my
beautiful. All the way around. Yes. No, thank you for that. I didn't mean to put you on the spot about, stuff with your union, but I was just, it occurred to me when you said that it was like, oh, are we going to have another layer added here? And, it's getting interesting. We're going from hot labor summer to pumpkin spice labor fall, hot pumpkin spice labor. I don't know. Like that.
The labor cauldron of the spooky labor cauldron.
There we go. I like that.
Oh, yeah. And I actually just looked it up very quickly officially from the Animation Guild's website where they list their contract. It says it'll be July 31st of 2024.
I think it got pushed. I think it got pushed out a little bit because of us trying to actually make strides last time. So yeah, July sounds about right.
So I would hope that if the WGA actually does meet an agreement with AMPTP, it would help. It will still very much give the Animation Guild a better bargaining position if WGA gets a better deal.
I think in terms of they don't want to go through that again. Yes, I think in terms of WGA got this, not so much, unfortunately. So, but we'll see. That's WGA. Thankfully, this is stuff we don't have to get into, but like WGA and tag, there was a long stretch where they were kind of in a weird position where they were sort of competing for the same, because like TV writing is TV writing, and you know, there are animated shows that are WGA and there are animated shows that are the Animation Guild, and there's not there's literally no difference between the work being done, and also no clear delineation of what should be WGA and what's tag, other than you know, I guess adult animation. But even that is being that line is being blurred these days. But it seems like all of the overtures I've been hearing from WGA members is like they're going to show up for the Animation Guild, as they should, and you're just hoping for a better future for everybody.
Yeah.
So, so you're saying adult animation is one of the delineators? So it
used to be. It used to be, but not anymore because it's a little complicated. It has to do with whether a company is a signatory and whether they have a signatory for animation.
Gotcha.
And like Fox used to be all adult animation was WGA, but then they got bought by Disney, and then Disney was not that way. And now there's a bunch of projects that were developed like halfway in between that are like, wait, are we WGA or are we tag? And there's a lot of situations where that's caused some problems. So
because I assume Lower Decks is tag because they talk about how they're working on the next season already.
It is. I think because CBS Animation, through which is done, is a tag signatory. So
got it. Okay.
Can't really do that. But Solar Opposites, the other show that Mike McMahon is working on, is WGA because it was through Hulu, and it was originally a project at Fox. To give you how
now that's Disney too. So
it is now.
I can't really talk out of turn about it, but that was a point of contention, shall we say?
I'm sure.
Suffice to say, the labor contracts are complicated.
They are very much so. But long and short of it is, you know, the workers should control the means of production. Let's move on.
Yes.
and
what a concept.
And the other thing that we want to boil down to and make sure that any of our listeners who may not have been following some of this as well, because the tag contract is different, Aaron is not in violation of any sort of strike rules by coming on here and talking about Star Trek.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that information has disseminated, thankfully, at this point, but it's always worth bearing repeating that I am a union man, and I will always do everything to support collective labor. I come from a union family. My grandfather was part of the Tool and Die Model Makers Machinists Union. He was FDR Democrat till he dies because he was like that. You know, FDR gave us jobs, so that's where I'm from.
What a concept, a new deal.
Yeah, a new deal, shall we say? All right, Lower Decks.
Don't get me started on a new deal. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. This is Thad from the future. A few hours after we recorded this, the news broke that WGA and AMPTP had reached an interim agreement and will hopefully become a permanent agreement. They need to finalize the wording, and then it has to go for a vote by the union, but it is a very good chance that the WGA strike will be over soon. SAG-AFTRA is still striking, so we're not out of this yet, but this is a good sign. So yeah, Lower Decks. We have a Star Trek episode to talk about, I suppose. And that would be, honestly, we are not nearly close to the record of how long it took us to talk about the episode.
Oh, gods, no.
Wow. Next time.
Yes.
So we have this week, Lower Decks, Something Borrowed, Something Green. Aaron, what did you think of this week's episode?
I mean, I genuinely liked it. I think, you know, obviously Lower Decks has a very specific aesthetic where it comes first and foremost is like, I think they almost play a game in the writer's room of how self-referential they can get of like, and I think that's part of its strengths, certainly, is that the Lower Decks team they can basically pick up the debris of 55 plus years of Star Trek lore and just and find those funny little quirks and things that would be mind blowing for one series, but are just used in one episode of Star Trek. And then they pull it back. It's like, nope, that was always real. Remember this? But I think what this episode really kind of showcased was that, they are just as equally capable, when the opportunity avails itself of expanding and creating their own Star Trek lore that feels completely organic. And, everything that they added, from the little stuff of, like the eldest primes and, the even the chain tattoo conversation at the top of the episode, like it all feels like of the Orion culture. But, in preparation for this episode, I was kind of reviewing in my mind, like, where have we seen expansion of Orion society? And there's surprisingly very little for as big of an outsized role as it kind of plays in the sort of Star Trek fandom. Obviously
mostly just Enterprise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I even rewatched the Pirates of Orion, and the Orion characters don't even show up until like 10 minutes before the end. And most
you mean
of
the Pirates of Orion?
Yes. I was going to get to that. I praised the writers' room's restraint at Lower Decks for not having them doing the Orion situation. But yeah, and most of that conversation in the TAS episode is just them talking about sort of spinning their twirling their mustaches and discussing about how if they're caught, they're going to commit suicide. So the fact that this episode so seamlessly and seemingly effortlessly just kind of gives us a very clear picture of what Orion culture looks like in the 2380s without dismissing or violating any of the stuff that's come before, I thought was very impressive. And it was just a fun, it felt like a nice capstone to kind of Tendy's arc that we've seen through the first 4 seasons of her sort of reluctance, I guess, and quasi embarrassment of where she came from and her heritage and how it's somewhat at odds with, Starfleet ideals. But, I think that this feels like kind of the end of that story in a way. I don't know if they continue with that or not, or they have plans to continue it, but it does feel like a nice kind of like, okay, I feel like there's been a breakthrough here, and I liked it for those reasons. And the B story with Mark Twain, like, as I've said many a time before, my personal favorite Star Trek episode, whether it's the best episode or not, is Time Zero. So I could just live in that Mark Twain holodeck scenario. That's my favorite thing in the world. I know it some people wish they'd gone a little deeper, but I don't know. I thought it was fun. So that's my impression of the episode.
All right. Well, that I can't argue with most of that. Chrissy, what do you think this week?
I enjoyed the Orion story much more than the other one. The other one was like, okay, this is fun. The whole Mark Twain thing. I love Time Zero as well, and it's just, but it was kind of completely irrational to take the situation and then take the captain and the other captain, which I know was the point. Understood. Yes. But it kind of took me out of it.
I'm from South China. That is a Southern accent.
Yeah, that was good. I liked it. I mean, I liked all of it. It's just, it wasn't those old scientists. I don't know.
When they can't all be those old scientists.
No, they can't. And we wouldn't want them to be, because then it's not special. I have a difficult time saying that I didn't completely and utterly enjoy any element of Trek episode.
Sure.
Especially now that we're like, on microphone here. So
why do you hate Star Trek, Chrissy?
Exactly.
Well, I've always likened like Star Trek it's a cornucopia, right? It's like literally it contains multitudes, where it's okay to thoroughly dislike one episode because the next one could be entirely different, you have comedies, space operas, submarine fight scenarios. Like, it's like every episode is like a grab bag. Who knows what it's going to be?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's wonderful about it. I don't know why I was feeling like I shouldn't be saying that that wasn't my favorite. But anyway, I liked all of the Orion stuff. It felt almost anthropological to watch, and that's the wrong word, because as we've talked about with Sam Kirk, he's not actually an anthropologist if he's looking at aliens, but whatever. It, like, I looked at it, you can see in my notes, I made a point. Where'd it go? I don't know if I put it in those notes or if I just scribbled it in the other notes, but I mean, when they're crashing the ship, Erica says the goddess chooses our fates now. So you can like extrapolate that there is or was an Orion religion that had a goddess and had something to, do with life and death. And I don't know, I kind of put on my sociologist hat and was watching that, and it was very cool. I liked it.
Yeah, I think that was to just sort of continue to emphasize the matriarchal aspect of Orion society by making it a
Absolutely,
goddess.
Yeah. There's a lot of places to go with it, and I don't mean to turn this into an anthropology episode. I'm not going to do that.
No, that's fine.
I
was totally
honestly, that was my angle too. Is like,
all right. Well, then we'll just do that.
Because there was a lot of moments where it could have just been a throwaway joke, but I could tell that there was some care being taken to actually make this feel like it all fit together. And maybe it's just because my own experience, especially season 1 and especially season 2, having helped invent a whole other alien race of the Vau-N'Akat. Like, it is really interesting. Like, you kind of start with that overall arching idea, like Klingons and honor, but then you have to get into the fine details and the nuances of where that's pushed and pulled. And I thought this episode did a good job of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I like because I feel like, I mean, we're in season 4 of Lower Decks at this point, and they've been building to an epic, shall we say, Orion reveal episode. We've gotten bits and pieces about Orion, attendees' Orion background and Orion culture in general. There's always been like this, like, sort of these hints and insinuations that Tendy's a big deal in the Orions, the mistress of the winter constellations and all that. Yeah. But we never got the full details, and it was nice to actually get to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed too that they didn't shy away from a lot of the stuff that for better or worse has been what is Orion culture. See it on other shows, but I think they did a good job of contextualizing it in a way that made it feel like it wasn't just a joke about, scantily clad women dancing around, which is how they were introduced in the cage as
described as an animal woman, no less.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Yeah, so I thought they did a good job of not shying away from their history while also expanding on it. And like all societies, there's sort of good and bad and controversial elements that have different meanings based on context. And for some reason, the part that I really liked, even though it was the most sort of independent gag, I would say, of it, was the drinking game, the Orion drinking game with the little spider that would come up and sting you if you didn't drink your shot fast enough. I was like, I love that. That's a great game.
I mean, I don't think I want to play it, but yes, no, I like the idea.
But as far in the pantheon of Star Trek games that are kind of like our games, but not, it felt totally of that world.
Oh yeah,
definitely
right up there with Calto.
Murder Bug Calto.
Yes.
I still have trouble with the whole concept of Calto because it doesn't look like anything at all when you suddenly win it and then it shifts into place. I'm like, I feel like there should be a progression.
Doesn't it mutate though? I thought it mutates a little bit. Like if you pull it out just a certain way,
it does, but it still just looks like a weird, it never gets to a looks like it's almost finished state. It goes from this jumble of sticks to this geometric shape.
Well, you have to remember, though, that it's a game played by people that think that 3D chess is child's play.
Fair.
I don't know. I always thought of that as being like a point about how disorder can be made orderly
Yes.
even if it doesn't necessarily look like it at the time.
Yeah.
But,
which I think is a great meditation on science meeting biology, where it feels like biology is messy and gross, but then when you get into the mechanics, we're actually these incredible machines. And I don't know, maybe that's going too deep on Calto.
No, not at all.
No, I got you.
We also have only seen it in a form that has a holographic element to it.
That's true.
So maybe in the traditional Calto, you actually had to build the thing. But
yeah,
there's a different.
I'd like to see what Murder Bug drinking game looked like 100 years prior, if that was the sanitized version that you'd see at a local bar.
I'm wondering if traditionally, before they had shields, it was you had to drink the shot and then slam the glass down on top of the bug.
That makes sense.
That feels right.
Yeah.
I also was wondering would it actually kill you if you messed up? That's the question that I was wondering. I thought maybe was it De'Erica or no, whatever the name of the best friend at the bar was. I thought she was actually going to get stung and get knocked unconscious.
I don't know if killed, but I think it certainly would have made your day very bad.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And it is Mariner that calls it Murder Bug. So
I also did really enjoy the recurring gag of Mariner getting a knife stuck in the same place on her shoulder over and over again.
that was pretty good.
Or we saw 3. Yeah.
And I love that the second time she says, "What are the odds?" And then it just keeps happening.
And then when they're showing photos to Boimler and Rutherford, she's like, "And here's where the knife went into my shoulder at the reception." So it's like, oh, again,
the dagger dance.
There was a very quick visual gag I want to call out. I don't know who on the team did it, but the first time it happens in the bar, she pulls it out, and then almost immediately the bartender offers a jar full of other bloody daggers that was just kept behind the bar to drop it into. Oh, this happens all the time. Very good. That was a very good blink and you miss it joke.
What's really if you look at that jar, a bunch of them are blade side up, and I really wonder how did you put a dagger blade side up in a jar?
Without precaution.
I guess.
The same way, for some reason, my mother puts the knives blade side up in the dishwasher.
Oh, no. Maybe it's like how kids will play bottle flip, I think maybe they just try to flip it into there with the bloody knife right into the jar.
I can see the logic behind blade side up in the dishwasher. It's so that the blade isn't moving around and hitting other blades and getting dull. But there is the possible problem of trip and fall while loading the dishwasher and die.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, given everything else we know about Orion sort of bar drinking culture, it actually did not surprise me at all.
No. You know what? I could see the bartender using that in itself as a weapon. So they're blade side out and he can just go throw it.
Yeah. Smash it on someone's head.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I did really appreciate when they were, sort of planning their girls' trip wedding or whatever they called it, that as they were leaving, T'Lyn just says, "I hope we get to see their aquifers." and then Mariner's like, "Ooh, T'Lyn's getting rowdy."
Yeah.
That was rowdy for her.
Yeah.
For Vulcan.
I did appreciate, I actually liked T'Lyn in this episode quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think it felt like a nice balance of sort of her Vulcan sort of stoicism with that the sort of the ethics, because I think sometimes it's easy to portray Vulcans as just these sort of hard-lined kind of unpleasant people. And, I think that was why Nimoy's Spock, or Spock in general, is, such an enduring character in popular culture. Because if you really know the character of Spock, he is always making those calculations of I wasn't expecting someone that was built on pure logic to do something nice for me. And it was nice to see T'Lyn, I think, it's just how Vulcans can appreciate beauty, even though you would think that's sort of illogical. But no, there's a mental aspect of it as well. And maybe it's just harkening back to my own philosophy days, where they tried very hard to kind of prove that ethics had sort of a fundamental logic to them. that I liked the kind of her storyline of like collecting the facts and then assessing and then disposing of them.
Yeah.
At the end, it was a nice little through line for her, and her commentary was pretty funny throughout.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, because this was very much a blink and you miss it thing, but towards the end of the episode, when Tendi asks who wants to hotwire a stolen ship, and T'Lyn says, "I do not," Mariner grabs her shoulder and says, "Oh, stop, we're in." And T'Lyn does, like, it's not a half smile, it's like an eighth smile, but she does, like, the corner of her lip turns up a little bit. And I thought that was a very nice little touch. It's like, she's clearly lost all control.
Well, that's the other thing about of Vulcans too, is like, I think people have this misconception that they're just robots, which is not true.
Mm-hmm.
Like Spock has done so many like sort of eyebrow raises and that, and if they were robots, they wouldn't do that. It's sort of like it's
or
the
think of
logical
all the
side of
shade that Tuvok used to throw in Voyager.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
Like, I think sarcasm is logical. I think to Vulcan.
Oh, I'm gonna stick that on the wall. Sarcasm is logical. I like that.
I really like the naming conventions that they went with for the Orions throughout. It was very funny once I figured out the game of it. My particular favorite was Ba'ert. Eric.
Yep.
Erica.
Yep. But then her mother's Shona, like it's not spelled with an apostrophe or anything like that.
Well, that's okay. I think it's same with Vulcans.
And it was the friend too.
I don't know why I keep talking about Vulcans, but like people always think that all female Vulcans start with "to" whatever, which is not true. There's a number of them that are not. But
there was a I remember reading in one of the novels, which makes it not necessarily I know that, but about how the T apostrophe was supposed to be indicative of the woman's marital status.
Oh, interesting.
And I can't remember which side it would have been. I guess it must have been at least betrothed because of T'Pring.
Yeah.
I don't think they've kept to that by any means, because we're talking a long time ago.
No, you're right. I think there's a lot of things that would have been a good idea until they were contradicted by future writers that know about them.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking off the top of my head, I can think of two rather prominent Vulcans who are not Tuz. So it definitely happens.
Wrath of Khan, anyone?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's Dr. Solar from TNG, who only gets one episode where she's seen on screen, but she's referred to like in like half the episodes.
That actually works within the context, if I remember correctly from this book. I'm gonna have to look this up now, because the S names were supposed to be in honor of Surak. So you had that was part of the naming conventions for the society. I'm probably going back to something from like Bantam novels.
That actually sounds right to me. Because
not Bantam.
A year or two ago, I had to do a deep dive on Vulcan naming conventions, and I believe I remember reading something along those lines.
I don't think I read any Bantam novel that was actually good.
Yeah, I was being a little bit sarcastic.
I'm thinking of those old 70s Bantam novels. I've read quite a few of them, and they were all interesting.
They certainly weren't Star Trek: The Next Generation meets the X-Men. We'll put it that way. This is a very small thing, but I did notice that I think this episode might be the first use of the word blog in the 24th century. This very quick throwaway line where Tendi's like, "Don't blog that." And I'm like, how interesting that they still use that in the 21st century, because I think we barely use it now in the 21st century.
Are you sure it wasn't just log that?
I mean, I could be wrong. I heard blog.
Because log would make sense for
No, it does. Yeah. It does make sense, but I thought maybe she said it might have been just a slip of the tongue. But yeah, I feel like, yes, that's a dated reference today, much less. Yeah.
Well, if we're going to talk about things that have never been heard on Star Trek before, I'm pretty sure we've never heard the term hump dungeon. So that one...
They did walk it back a little bit at the end and call it officially a sanctuary.
Yes, that's right. I like that. Sanctuary. Yes. Yep.
All I have is my stink. I know it was clearly just them having fun in the writer's room, but I chuckled every time one of the male Orions would say, "The moans."
Yes.
The moans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, of course, that I like that they didn't, that throughout Lower Decks, this isn't the first time they've brought up the pheromones, and they are, rather than ignoring one of the worst episodes of Star Trek Enterprise, they have adapted it and leaned into it.
Yeah, and and they just acknowledge that just like all societies, there is a seedier side to, Orion culture, and that's where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mariner called it out, like, oh, well, we know that that's not the case because they had to make up a reason for a Starfleet captain to get completely overwhelmed.
But then Tendi was like, oh, actually, no, it's kind of true.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And there was the, I think it was either season 1 or season 2, I can't remember now. The one where Mariner and Tendi go on the first girls trip.
Oh,
and they
yeah.
have to get Ta'ana's fertility idol. And they go to the Orion place to try to get it fixed, and Mariner says that her voice sounds weird because she has allergies and she's allergic to pheromones. And the other guy's like, yeah, they're so bad right now. I remember.
Yeah. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I loved it. That the idea, but also the part where they're saying, and then Tendi doesn't have pheromones, but she doesn't need them. She can just have men eating out of her hand. And I was like,
yeah.
I want to see.
They were stricken. One look, and they were stricken. And Mariner's like, "You strict people."
I definitely want to see some flashbacks to teenage Tendi at some point.
Yeah, there was some throwaway line where she got embarrassed, where the person in charge of the sanctuary said, like, the Tendi I know would never turn down a cage shower or something like that.
Yes,
that's what it was. Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, what is that about? But you're right, Thad, and that everybody has things they're probably embarrassed about from their teenage years.
Yeah.
I did like the storyline overall, though, of her kind of deep diving and showing she winds up showing her where she came from, her heritage, warts and all, to her friends, and they're fairly non-judgmental and just we're like, just where your upbringing does not define you exclusively, and it's sort of like what you choose to be now, and perhaps what you've always been, which I thought was a great sort of message for her to kind of finally internalize. As I said before, she's kind of been dallying with that, I think, throughout the seasons, and I think this is a great way to kind of put a punctuation mark on that, of like, it's okay for you to pursue who you are without forgetting who you were and where you came from.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's if there's a through line through Trek, that's one of the big ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love every bit of it. Oh, I was going to say, we found out that Devana has even more titles. She's the tip of the moonlit blade, or she was supposed to be. And the tip of the moonlit blade is something that the mistress of the winter constellation does or is. Weren't super clear on that, but what was curious to me and would work well if we were trying to, release Tendi from this part of her life, if her sister would take on those things once she marries, or is there some kind of official like handover that Devana can say, no, I'm in Starfleet now and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm happy to lose this authority, hand it over, because it seems like that's what's going to happen. But
yeah, you're right, and that it did feel like there was. I thought the nice reversal too of just, instead of it just being you forced me to take a job that I didn't like, but rather it was a different kind of sibling relationship. I don't know if either of you have siblings, but it felt very familiar to me, where it wasn't just like you forced me to take care of the family farm or whatever. It was more just like, you're my older sister, and you were so good at this, and you never, like, I felt like I was just kind of handed this instead of just me being able to prove myself, and I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. And this is going to sound like the dorkiest sort of analog ever, but bear with me. I was in marching band, and it was in high school, and I was in a very it was actually like in our high school marching band, for whatever reason, was like nationally ranked and well renowned.
Nice.
And we actually won Bands of America one year, for those marching band aficionados listening. But there was like this weird family legacy where like my sister is 5 years older than me, and my cousins are slightly older than me. And all of them went on to become like the drum majors or the section leaders and stuff. So then by the time it rolled around, everybody just assumed I would be in marching band, and everybody just assumed I would be great at it. And I was just like, well, maybe I would be great at it, but I never got to really figure that out. I just was like, you're just going to do this. And I feel like that was sort of, in a weird way, that was sort of the unenviable position that Tendy's sister was in, where it's not that she didn't dislike it. It's that it was sort of an obligation that was just kind of thrust upon her without even ever talking it out, and reassuring her own insecurities about it, I guess. And I thought that was an interesting tack to take, instead of just the easier route of just saying, oh, they're just sibling rivalry that hate each other or whatever. Is a more nuanced approach.
Yeah.
No, I think that absolutely is a perfect analogy for the dynamic, because that makes a lot of sense, because she even says that she does want to do all these things, but so I think that works.
Could I possibly live up?
So I will, on a slightly different note, when they are on that stolen ship that they're hot wiring, that ship itself is a deep Star Trek cut. That is the same design as the Raven, which was the ship that Seven of Nine's parents took to the Delta Quadrant.
Because at first, for a second, when it started to emerge in the Rebels, like, is that a Danube class? And I was like, no, it's not a Danube class. What is it? Thank you for doing the research that I did not bother to.
I actually didn't do any research. I just knew it, but that's just because you walked into your mind palace, and you pulled that book off the shelf.
No, that's good, because the LCARs made it obvious that it was something Starfleet or Federation, and I was like, well, maybe it was a runabout or something.
Yeah,
but,
no, they even did the interior just like it was in Dark Frontier.
There you go. So it is called it's called the Raven class. Is that what you said?
I don't know if it has a class name. Ship 709's parents were on the Raven. That was the name of the ship, was the Raven. Yeah. I don't know if it has a class name. I am now looking that up. If I had done research, I would know this.
Yeah, I wonder if it's sort of like, because there's a little bit of an interesting, and you see it.
Memory Alpha just calls it a Raven type.
Okay, sure, fair. So that, but like, there's this interesting dynamic. You see it a lot on Deep Space Nine, where what do ships look like that are used in the Federation using Federation technology that aren't part of Starfleet, and there's obviously a lot of sort of crossover there. So maybe that's the reason why there wasn't like a USS or anything behind it, was because it was just like a civilian ship that happened to use Federation technology.
So interestingly, it was actually, according to the LCAR's displays from Voyager, it was actually the USS Raven.
All right. Forget the line that I just said.
I think you don't have to be military even in the modern day.
No,
for that. I think that's just maybe not a naming convention, but
no. So it was, the registry was NAR, which has been used for non Starfleet ships in other instances of Star Trek.
So like perhaps a ship that's been decommissioned or been reclassified
there you go.
in order to be civilian. Yeah. Because I know you have other things like the Zoza, I think, was like straight up just like old Federation tech that the Patarans or whatever bought, and just like, we use this as a junk freighter now, like, and it's using like old secondhand Federation tech.
But yeah, because its registry was NAR 32450, and the Memory Alpha article about NAR, which this part I did not know. I recognize classes. I don't necessarily know all of the minutia of everything.
Please
don't tell people that.
Pick it up.
Yeah, NAR was for various non Starfleet ships. The SS Mariposa from Up the Long Ladder was an NAR registry ship, for instance.
Okay. That classic episode.
That's a word for it.
I like half
I don't
the
hate
episode.
that as much.
I like
as
the clones part. The Space Irish part.
If it had just been farmers, they didn't have to be Irish.
Maybe it's just because I am half Irish that I find a certain perverse delight in those episodes.
How do you feel about Fairhaven?
Here's the thing about Fairhaven, and I'll leave it at that because I know it's a divisive episode. If you just pretend it's a Hobbiton episode, like they go to like they're all hobbits instead of it's supposed to be Irish, it actually is a much more, you're able to enjoy it. It's just a fantasy world where everybody acts that way, and they're over the top storybook characters, and then it's actually kind of a fun story about people holograms that become self-aware.
Well, see, that's Spirit Folk. Fairhaven.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant in general the holodeck concept of Fairhaven, because that's the name of the program. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Well, yeah, fair. I will admit that Spirit Folk is a guilty pleasure. I will not call it a good episode. But I do actually think that, stereotypes aside, which, okay, is a big aside. I think that the episode of Fairhaven is actually a very good episode that delves into some interesting stuff.
Yeah. We could do a whole episode on it, but I agree. Like most Star Trek episodes, I will not say all, but most Star Trek episodes, even the ones that are controversial, shall we say, usually have a kernel of something very interesting at the heart of them. And it's just like, if only they'd excised that 5 to 10 to 20 minute chunk, maybe it could have been a fantastic episode.
Excise the 20-minute chunk out of the 45-minute episode. Yes.
I think there might only be 1 or 2 episodes that I would say you couldn't find anything from.
No, it's true. There's a few that very clearly just kind of felt like they had a time schedule crunch or something that got rewritten into a really horrible shit show. But anyway,
it happens. It happens.
Thankfully, that has never happened on Lower Decks.
That's true. And I think that's partially the timeline of animation. There is still in the entertainment industry, we always call it feeding the beast. Like the production schedule is kind of like nipping at your heels a little bit. But what's interesting with the animation pipeline is that there are stages. There's a few extra stages between starting and release that give you a chance to reassess. Whereas like in live action, typically you don't have very much money for reshoots the way that it, like, say, a movie might. You could maybe get a couple pickup shots, maybe, but usually it's just like, okay, we're in the editing room. What can we do with this footage? And, maybe record loop in some extra lines, excuse me, to make it work. Okay. But in animation, obviously you write the scripts, you have a few drafts right in the script, then it goes to storyboards, and then the storyboard artist might have questions or the director might have questions, and then you have an animatic where you can all watch it with somewhat fresh eyes. And if something isn't quite working, or there's some oversight or some setup that you forgot to pay off in a later episode, you have room to do revisions of the storyboards at that point. And so the only difference is it just becomes prohibitively more expensive to make changes the further along that pipeline you go.
Sure.
So for that reason, I think, our show certainly had, I think, a lot more leeway to make sure we got everything right and it all hooked together. And Lower Decks, I'm sure, is the same way.
Yeah, I don't think Lower Decks or Prodigy have anything resembling their version of "And the Children Shall Lead" or anything like
right.
that.
But there's a famous
Although
lawyer
now
who
I'm
wants to
waiting
be
for-
an actor who needs a job. And come on.
Now I'm waiting for Lower Decks to parody "And the Children Shall Lead."
How have they not yet?
I know,
That's a good
right?
point. Yeah, I would have thought that would have been one of the throwaway, like the cold opens, like they were doing the first season, where it was just random event that had nothing to do with the rest of the show. That would have been a good. Oh well.
I'm still waiting for someone to finally address the weird elephant in the room from especially TOS, where they would just, due to budget concerns, they were just like, "Oh, this planet just evolved exactly like Earth."
Hodgkin's law of parallel development.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's just it's such a weird idea. And the fact that they have whole episodes that are set in that's not the primary thing they're investigating.
My rant about that, which will continue forever, and I've done this before on the show, is things like bread and circuses and the Omega Glory do not make sense because the planets have different land masses.
Right, exactly. It's guns, germs, and steel.
You're not wrong. In fact, yeah, you expect that to be something like the Skagarans, where they picked them up.
Mhm.
Well, that wasn't the Skagaran, but the humans that they picked up, where it's like, okay, this is how they were living.
Yeah.
So they continue living that way.
Or even cultural contamination or whatever. Like the fact well, it's like, nah, they're just Romans. Just go with it. The Romans.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
They had a set left over from Ben-Hur. We're shooting on it.
Right. Like the like probably like 10 or 20 episodes that were planets that had that we used that early 20th century Paramount Street backlot. I mean, that okay. I can accept the argument that a planet developed enough that they also had cars and buildings that looked like that.
Right.
I mean,
if the assumption is like, just like warp drive is sort of like one of these fundamental ideas, that maybe combustion engines also is kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I think the fact that they look exactly like a 1939 Studebaker is a little like,
but like the literal Roman Empire and the literal U.S. Constitution should not have developed.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
That one is. Although, I mean, that's cultural contamination, right? Because it's a copy that was dropped there, wasn't it?
No, that one was literally, they just came up the same way, I think. I thought so too, because that makes way more sense.
But no, it turned out that it was always that
in a long
way.
Time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
And what's freaking wild about this was there was a TOS episode where one of those planets did have the exact same land masses as Earth. Because Miri.
Yes,
and they didn't deal with any, like, the things that happened on Miri could have happened on any planet that didn't look like Earth. Like, there was no actual reason for it.
It's true. I don't recall there being anything in there in particular where they looked at a map or...
Yeah. It's not like they said, this is the United States or something like that. No, it just...
I think it was just like... I very clearly, someone in the writer's room, probably Roddenberry, just had the idea of something. How interesting would it be if like our civilization is exactly the same, except this one thing happened? Anyway, shall we dive into the B story, however controversial it may be?
I think that is a very... I don't know what Mark Twain would say next, but yes, let's do it.
You're as stubborn as a Senate mule.
Yeah, I laughed at that.
That was a nice little history Easter egg. I did appreciate that.
Yes, because yeah. Shall we paraphrase the old rail splitter?
That too. Yeah.
I will say that, more than many other episodes, this did feel like more of a classic sitcom B story in a way.
Yes.
Where let's just cut
100%.
back to them having hijinks. It did feel a little bit like maybe the initial pitch was like things with Rutherford and Boimler are going super great until until they argue over who's going to water the bonsai. I feel like that was kind of the B story as pitched, and then they just kind of threw stuff at it until it was funny enough. Which, you know, it I don't know if it hung together as cleanly as other episodes did, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Like I said at the top of the episode, I really wish they had just gone with the Mark Twain holodeck thing and just stuck with it the whole time. Maybe that would have gotten annoying after a while, but I wouldn't have. I would have, like, teenage Aaron would have just been enraptured the whole time because I do really enjoy Mark Twain's letters, and as I said, Time Zero is a personal favorite of mine. So, although it was kind of interesting because it felt like they kind of started with, Mark Twain in Star Trek, and then they were like, oh wait, that was a time travel thing, that wasn't a holodeck episode, and so they just kind of reverse engineered, which I understand. My question though is, what would that holodeck scenario looked like had they not both showed up as Twain?
Yeah, who was the other one supposed to be?
One of them shows up as Twain and the other one is just there. And then, because like in like the Sherlock scenario, at least you had Geordi as Holmes, or sorry, as Watson rather.
Yeah.
And so there's a bit of you're both cosplaying, but maybe I just don't know my Twain history that much. I don't recall him having a sidekick or anything.
Maybe it's a holographic program of Data's shenanigans. And the other one's Data. Of course, then I would see both of them showing up as Data, not Twain. But
like somebody created like a holo novel based on the events of Time Zero. Now you're just making me sad about what could have been.
Yeah.
So
think of that. Oh well.
A neat little Easter egg, which I did not pick up on, but Trek Core did, is that the steamboat is called the A.B. Chambers, which was the name of a steamboat that Samuel Clemens himself had served as a pilot on.
I thought that was a nice little touch. I did appreciate that they were like, if we're going to go Mark Twain, we're going to go whole hog into Twainville.
Yeah.
You know, they could have just done Foghorn Leghorn, but it seemed like they actually tried to do a little bit of research, which was great.
And somebody else tweeted about this, and I enjoyed this, is that I love that they gave us an establishing shot of the steamboat, even though there is no reason for that to exist, since it's a holodeck program, and Rutherford and Boimler would not have seen that establishing shot.
Okay, so I
never even thought of it that way. I love it.
Somebody tweeted about that, and I replied to it, and they wound up writing a Screen Rant article about it, actually.
I
replied.
That's awesome.
And so I've had to explain this to the Prodigy writers room a number of times, of how holodeck programs kind of operate slightly outside of what, it's, and I think what's most mind-bending about it is that holodeck programs can be gigantic, at least in terms of the perception. Like the Killing Game is the one that I always use as an example, where you have characters in wildly disparate areas that are clearly bigger than the size of the holodeck. And
that are all over that town in France.
All over that town in different places, kidnapped. And you have establishing shots where there are no characters perceiving the establishing shot. So, and what I think what trips people out is like, why does that exist? But then you actually start to think about the meta commentary of why, when you show the outside of a building, it's the same concept. You're effectively making the audience member a passerby that would exist in this world. What trips people out is like, wait, does that mean the holodeck is generating a bubble of sort of perception filter around this non-existent camera, and then it starts to melt people's brains? But the same sort of, I guess, visual language is used in traditional storytelling, but we don't think about it because there's not that sci-fi layer there.
Right.
But I mean, the long and short of it is it's 24th century technology, and it should just, as we all know, that means it's magic. So
yes. That didn't even occur to me. I love it even more.
Yeah.
No, it absolutely makes sense from a storytelling narrative point of view.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like when you think about it for a little bit, it's like, what? Wait.
It helps if you just think of all of Star Trek just being a Q watching television, and then it all makes sense.
Nice. Yeah.
Or if you think of Star Trek as a TV program meant for people to enjoy, you know.
What? Blasphemy. Yeah, I did enjoy it. I think I would agree that maybe it was certainly skirting the line of credibility when they went into the final gag of trying to put the guy from Chalnoth into the wig and stuff. It probably would have been okay if it was like a little shorter, maybe, but but the construction of that little moment was sort of like, why are we doing this? It was like, it seems like you would have had that conversation off camera, maybe.
I really liked the gag of when the Chalnoth roared and they said, try doing that in a southern accent, which in and of itself, that is itself just funny. And then he goes on about how he's from southern Chalnoth, and it was like, oh, that's amazing.
So I here's I don't nitpick very often. Here's my tiny nitpick, which is it's actually not Chalnoth is the race. The name of the planet is Chalna.
You are correct.
Which means the episode is literally unwatchable. And now it's my least favorite episode of Lower Decks. I'm sorry.
It's terrible. Yeah.
No, it's
but you are correct.
Send them to the planet Kling.
So I find it so I guess he can eat bonsai trees, but not red nutrition cubes.
Hey, we don't know what Chalnoth biology is like.
Because for people who may or may not remember, the other time we have seen a Chalnoth from Chalna, it was in the TNG episode Allegiance.
Allegiance, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When Picard and
he was like starving, right?
Yeah, because the nutrition cubes that the aliens put into the room, he couldn't eat them. He said they were poison.
Right, and they have to eat every 3 days or they just die. That's quite a metabolism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
I mean, human metabolism would go through things in 3 days too. It's just we also store stuff. I guess Chalnoth don't have fat stores.
No, they're 1% body fat. They're just absolutely cut.
Or he was just scaring everybody.
That's true. Yeah, they could just be prone to exaggeration.
Get me out of here, or I'm going to have to eat one of you is really good motivation.
It was that, but that's another example, I think, of just like Lower Decks having fun of just like, this could just be a rando alien, but let's bring back that guy from that.
Yeah, and that's what I love about Lower Decks is that they're always doing tiny little references like this. And by the way, the guy's name is Kakor.
That's right.
Okay. And was that J.G. Hertzler?
No, it was
the voice.
Eric Bauza.
Yeah.
Oh, he was doing a good impression of J.G. Hertzler. Okay.
Well, he's a master impressionist. I know Eric personally.
Oh yeah, I'm now
cool.
looking at the other voices that he's done.
Like Bugs Bunny.
I was looking at the Star Trek.
Oh wow,
he's the voice of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck.
Nice.
Yeah, he's the voice of most of the Looney Tunes pantheon.
Yeah, well, Memory Alpha doesn't mention that.
Oh, well, they should.
They really should, honestly.
You know, it's funny, like talking as Foghorn Leghorn. There was one time I was like, because I knew he did Bugs Bunny and stuff, and I was like, Eric, I don't think I've ever heard your Foghorn Leghorn. And he was just like, I say, and he just like launched into it perfectly, and I was like, oh my god, I bow down to the master.
That is awesome.
But we've used Eric on Prodigy a number of times as well. He's like literally give him anything to do and he can do it. I think he was the voice of our Genoblian officer.
Yes, I was about to say some of his more notable Star Trek voice roles are Barnes Frex, the Denobulan from Prodigy. Also, he was Scott E. and Sulu in All the World's a Stage.
Yes, he did both of those.
And he was the ass face and screwhead in Skin a Cat.
Well, not putting that at the top of the CV, but all right.
But he's a Swiss Army knife, and I've known him for years and years, even before he became like a full-time voice actor. He was in animation. We both Knew a lot of people and did a little bit of work with 6 Point Harness back in the day, which is one of the independent animation studios. And he's a very nice guy and he loves Star Trek for sure.
Awesome.
But anytime you need him to do any alien voice, he's sort of like the guy to go to, and he'll do anything for you.
Yeah, we didn't have any legacy guest actors this time. Although we do have like normal voice actor guests. So yeah. Because Ariel Winter of Phineas and Ferb was to Erica.
There you go.
Nice. I'm
trying to remember what were the other. So they. Oh yeah, then they ended on like a Mozart gag, right, where they were both playing.
Yes.
And I think
we better see that acrylic Enterprise D in their quarters in the next episode.
Oh, it. I mean, they'll do that. I mean, the little tractor beam thing was on the shelf, as was the DS9 model, and
yeah.
There
was John Orchiola of Screen Rant, I think, tweeted about this, and he pointed out that like if that was like an Amadeus like holo program, does that mean there was a Salieri, and did he look like F. Murray Abraham?
Oh my god! No, he looks like Rafa.
And I said, you haven't heard Salieri Sitara until you hear it in the original Sonos. Which is such a niche joke. It's one of the most niche jokes I have ever made.
That's fantastic.
That's an amazing joke, though. I love that.
So at the end of these reviews, I can't remember. Do you do like how many batleths do you give it or anything like that?
Not normally, but how many batleths would you give this one?
I would give it 4.2 batleths.
Okay.
Out of how many is the question?
Out of 5.1.
Okay. I think I'd give it 4 pheromones out of 5.
4 moans.
Yeah, 4 moans out of 5.
3.5 twains out of 5 twains.
A house divided in twain cannot stand.
I loved the Rutherford Boimler part, but it was just like, I think if they had just left it at that.
I love that it had the little scar like break in the Rutherford's eyebrow as Twain that he also has in real life. I thought that was cool.
Well, oh wow, I didn't even notice that.
I didn't notice that either. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. They pay attention.
Mm-hmm. As they're leaving the holodeck, and they're like, "Why are vests so complicated?"
Oh yeah, this episode definitely was the king of button, what they call a button joke. Like it's the joke you toss out right at the end of a scene. Like every button joke was pretty solid, I thought.
Yeah. But if they think that's bad, they should try getting into or out of a woman's clothing from that era.
Oh, no question.
If we're on to random things,
absolutely.
Did either of you notice how much the woman that runs the hump dungeon looked like Ursula from The Little Mermaid?
I did notice that a little bit. Yeah,
I did pick up on that. Yes.
I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it was good. It was good.
I'm sure it was a designer just throwing out at design, because in animation in particular, you usually have to come up with like 5 mock-ups of like what you think the character could look like, and then the director and the showrunner kind of pick and say, "Oh, go that direction." So it wouldn't surprise me if the person who designed that, was pulling inspiration from different ones and maybe had a little bit of an idea of like, oh, what if she's more like an Ursula type character, and gave her. I think it definitely was the. She obviously had a very prominent chin, and then the haircut especially felt very Ursula-esque.
Yeah, it was the hair.
If we're talking about random things, I let in the beginning when they get put on the sedan to be carried into the mansion, and Mariner's just like, I'm from a post-scarcity world, and this is still impressive.
Yeah, I really like that joke. I also like the joke
was
that
good.
once they go through the gates, there's someone else on another litter, like the parents are all, and they just put down the litters next to each other. I thought that was a pretty fun gag. Like how it really is pretty ostentatious, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm glad you brought up the post scarcity thing, because she didn't say moneyless.
Mm-hmm.
Post scarcity. And I think that might be the first time that Earth's been described particularly with that way, with that economic term, I guess.
Mhm.
And I'm glad for that. I like that. I think that's better than trying to go around saying that it's a moneyless society, because we know it's not.
Except for all
So.
those times when they told us it was.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Like
But
dating all the way back to Star Trek V, I think. And before that,
Star
in
Trek
the
4.
TOS. I thought
Star
it was.
Trek-
oh yeah, Star
no,
Trek
you're right.
IV,
It
we
was
don't use
4.
money in the 21st century, 23rd century. Yeah.
It was just like, you want money? Money I got. Genesis.
Oh, that's Star Trek 3, but yeah,
3.
you're right.
Yes.
But Star Trek 4, I think, is when Kirk says that they don't use money in the future.
Yeah,
Right.
it's when the bill for the pizza
That's
comes.
right.
She
When
says,
they
I suppose you don't
both
use money in the
order
23rd
large
century.
pizzas like crazy people.
But then I
Wait,
think
what? They don't order 4.
No, they each order a large pizza.
Oh, that's right. He says the same.
what
Yeah.
a weird. That's a pretty weird gag. It implies that they have no concept of what pizzas are in the future.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, because she says,
Yeah.
"Do you trust me?" And he says implicitly.
Mhm.
So then she orders a large pizza, presumably for them to share with the toppings
Right.
that she
Mhm.
chose. But he just says, "I'll have the same."
I refuse to believe
Forgot
that
about
pizza that the recipe for pizza goes extinct in the replicator. Pizza
Oh,
is
no.
eternal.
Especially because Frakes Riker is making pizza in Picard.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, maybe it was a lost art that he resuscitated.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Or maybe it's not that the pizza's missing from Kirk's brain, but the locale does not indicate what's going on.
Mm.
Or
for
maybe
him.
it's the size of the pizza. Like maybe the
Maybe.
replicator just does a quick bioscan and says, this is the exact amount of pizza you want right now, which honestly, that would be amazing.
I would love that feature because I never actually know when I order pizza.
No, it's always too
I-
much or too little.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you sometimes you're like, oh, pizza by the slice. I'll just get a slice of pizza. And you're like, I should have gone for 2.5 slices. That would have been the
Mhm.
perfect amount of pizza.
I usually order a medium pizza because I rarely want more than a medium pizza. And so that way, like, I will almost always have leftover, but at least I will never not have enough.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
and
my
leftover
wife-
pizza. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
leftover pizza. Yeah.
My wife and I found at last a solid New York style pizzeria here in LA.
Nice.
Nice.
And we ordered a large, or I think they only make it in the one size, and you know they're very thin crust, New York style,
Mhm.
and so we ate it. We were like, oh, that's so good, and then we like blinked, and suddenly the entire pizza was gone. Like between the two of us, just like,
Yes.
oh my god. So I have no regrets.
No.
No, I wanna-
I'm having pizza for dinner now, definitely.
Yeah, I was like, now I'm gonna have pizza tonight. Yeah, I think we've covered pretty much everything we can on this about this half-hour episode of Star Trek in the past hour and a half. So, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Where can listeners find you online? Do you have any current or upcoming work you want to mention?
So yeah, people can find me on all social media outlets, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, all of them, Mastodon. That's GOODAARON. I always, anytime there's any sort of update on programs or projects that I'm working on, I will always try to tweet them out or push them out on those platforms. So find me there. Forthcoming season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy. I encourage everybody to go, keep an eye out for any news on that. And season 1B is coming out on Blu-ray and DVD, I think this week.
Yep.
So, and it has some really great special features on it. Some of which include yours truly. So I'm proud of it. I get to have a little bit talk about a P-class planet, the pelagic ocean zones, and a number of other Star Trek. I basically was the Star Trek lore dump guy,
Nice.
But it was a lot of fun. So yeah, check out those. The action figures are also really fun. I just unboxed my little Zero action figure. They're very well made.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, forthcoming projects, I have a few in development, but they're all under NDA at the moment. I did a little bit of work on the next Transformers movie. So
cool.
Check that out
Cool.
When it comes out next year, called Transformers 1. And yeah, that's follow me for more updates.
Yeah, actually, this will drop on Tuesday. So, listeners, if you didn't pre-order Prodigy, you should be able to walk into a store and buy it
if you can find a store that sells new release TV Blu-rays.
If not, most online stores
yes.
have like one or 2 day shipping. So
yeah, you can certainly get it on Amazon or any other store that sells Blu-rays online.
Yeah, and if you're a European listener, I think they've released a full season 1 Blu-ray there that may eventually migrate elsewhere. But if you want all 20 episodes in one box,
I already own the first half of season 1, so I have the second half pre-ordered. So
yeah, well, either way, it's very good, and I'm told by HD aficionados it looks even better than on Paramount Plus.
Nice.
It looks fantastic, and our art team works so hard to make those amazing backdrops and lighting and stuff. You won't regret it.
Yeah, I agree about the first
definitely.
half. It did actually look a little better on the Blu-ray than it did on streaming. Chrissy, where can people find you when you're not hotwiring a stolen ship?
I wish I had that kind of knowledge. In addition to here in Infinite Diversity, you can find me on History with the Szilagyi here on the BQN. That's that twice weekly short history podcast I do with my fellow historian husband, Jason. And I'm happy to chat about our shows in the BQN Collective on Facebook. And I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky at The Goddess Livia. That's TheGoddessLivia, where you can see my opinions about Star Trek history and leftist politics. Thad, where can people find you when you're not training to become your family's prime?
Best place to find me is probably still on the website, formerly known as Twitter. I'm also on Blue Sky and Mastodon and 12 other places. At Tyrannicus, that's TYRANICUS. You can also hear me on the podcast I do with my friend Carl, where called License to Spiel. That's license spelled with a C, like the British do it. We started out as a James Bond podcast, but now we're long out of James Bond content, and we just talk about other TV shows and movies that we watch.
Don't forget about all of our other great shows here on the BQN. Here's Amy Nelson to tell you all about them.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. If you're lost in the Delta Quadrant, check out The Captain's Couch, a Star Trek Voyager podcast hosted by Jeremiah sitting on Janeway's Ready Room couch. Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out, hosted by Mark, Matt, and Laz. Beam Aboard the Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Amy, Joe, Rhea, and Kevin. History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Union Federation, covering all things Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Star Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Spill the Tea with What's the Tea, Bev? A Trek current events and fan interview show hosted by Christos. And for our Patreon members, we have The Hive Mind, BQN's monthly roundtable discussion with hosts and listeners. It's Green, a cornucopia of topics hosted by Mark. And Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek, hosted by Amy. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Infinite Diversity. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music and Mark White for the awesome show art. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast player, and don't forget to rate and review us there as well.
If you'd like to reach out, you can find the network on Twitter and Blue Sky at BQN Podcasts, or our show specifically at IDIC Podcast. And you can talk about any and all of our BQN podcasts in our Facebook group, the BQN Collective. When you next hear from us, we'll be talking about the next episode of Lower Decks, Empathological Fallacies. That's a mouthful. Until then, we bid you peace and long life.
Oh, Long John Silver's is also part of that, I think.
Oh, and A&W, because we have a KFC A&W, and then on the other end of town we have a KFC Taco Bell.
We don't have any A&Ws around here. I remember the first time I saw that, I was kind of surprised. I'm like, the soda company has a restaurant?
Yeah, if you don't know it from the other way around, yeah.
I had an A&W restaurant in Greenwood Park Mall in central Indiana where I grew up. And I remember it blowing my mind the first time I saw it because I loved A&W root beer. And it's like, their food's got to be just as good. It's like, it's just like hot dogs. And it's not bad. It's not anything special, though. I don't recall anything being like, oh, I got to go to A&W for their hamburgers.
We have a KFC / Long John Silver's here, which honestly I think is the best sort of combination of the two because they're both, the fried food thing. So it works out well, I think.
Does it? Okay, because I've gone to, this is again tangent within tangents, wheels within wheels. A friend of mine used to throw what he called fry parties, where they would have everybody would bring their own sort of oil baskets or something. We found out among 5 of us had fry baskets, and so we bought them. And then you bring your own stuff to batter and fry, but you have to be very careful about not mixing the oils because otherwise you might wind up eating. Does the chicken taste like fish? Is what I'm getting at.
They use different. Use different fryers.
Okay, all right.
I'm just thinking in general, the fried chicken and the fried fish together under one roof sort of complement each other.
It's just like a kebab place in Scotland or something where everything fried under one roof.
Although I will say, if you are ever at a KFC A&W, get the cheese curds there, because if the one by me is any indication, they fry them at least adjacent to the chicken oil because they do not taste as good at any other A&W.
Oh, interesting. So sometimes the flavors are complementary.
Curds, yeah.
Those original,
if you want to have a heart attack. I don't know.
So the real white whale, because there aren't many of them at all, is the KFC buffet.
Yes, we used to have one of those in Saginaw, and then they remodeled, and it's gone. Wow. Yeah.
So I when I was growing up, there was Greenwood, which is one of the towns that I spent a lot of time in as a child. It was a test town
Neat.
Corporations would, like, multiple corporations would just try stuff out. Like, when I tell people when I was growing up that I literally got a VHS tape and a bag of chips made with Olestra in my mailbox, they were like, what? That's not normal. But there was McDonald's created, I think, three in the world. They've created 3 restaurants, like full restaurants that were like sit down fine dining restaurants. And one of them was just outside of Greenwood.
What did they serve?
Of course.
So the thing I remember most distinctly is, like, you could get steak frites there. And literally it was like a steak, like, and then they had the McDonald's French fries with it.
Okay.
That wasn't bad. But it also wasn't, I clearly wasn't good enough to franchise. But it stayed there for a long time, like 20 years. It was weird. Yeah. So that's been this special unit of Munch Squad.
Before we move away from that topic, the one other thing I'll mention is one thing I very much miss, because they don't exist anymore, is in the 90s, in the late 80s, early 90s, Wendy's had a buffet.
Salad bars, yep.
Yeah. Well, they called it something else. It was like the Awesome Bar or something. Like,
I remember that.
Yeah. And the best thing on it was that they had garlic bread that they made out of old hamburger buns.
Yeah.
It was so good. Anyway.
Yep.
Junk food is the necessity of invention.
Here, let me poison your memory of that with a George Carlin thing.
Okay.
He has a I don't remember which album. It's one of the ones from the early 90s. And he's talking about how people always say that the voices in their heads told them to kill people and things like that. And he says, why does nobody ever have a voice in their head that tells them to go take a shit at the bar at Wendy's? So I can't ever hear about the Wendy's salad bar without hearing George Carlin.
Thankfully, I never saw that happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully not. Anyway,
there's also a Pizza Hut near me that still has the Pizza Hut salad bar, or the Pizza Hut pizza bar, actually, where it's like,
the lunch.
They have different kinds of pizza and different kinds of pasta.
And cinnamon pizza.
I really want to know, are there still Pizza Huts out there where you can get a personal pan pizza that is served in a cast iron skillet? Because that was the height of luxury when I was 7 years old.
Well, I would read so many books just so I could get that. Yes,
because you weren't reading anyway.
Well, yeah, but still.
You were the same way, right? It felt like I was cheating. I felt like I was cheating the system, because I was like, oh, these books I'm reading anyway, I get like 400 book it points. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, right. We were talking about the strike. I was going somewhere with that, I swear.
Sure.
Not just Pizza Hut.
So now I have to ask, anytime Insurrection comes up, have you watched it with the Jonathan Frakes Marina Sirtis commentary?
No, that sounds like a great time.
You should absolutely do so. It is possibly the best way to experience that movie. And I love the movie. I actually really like it in general. But no, because Marina Sirtis is definitely several glasses of wine in when she starts. And she's just constantly saying, I don't remember any of this. Like making
just in a fugue state.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't remember doing any of these things.
Okay.
It is, but no, because they have great chemistry talking to each other. It's hilarious.
But it's true. Like, the production schedules for especially Star Trek, because they were some of the more consistent, like, because they were probably making the TV show. Were they making the TV show at the time of Insurrection? No, sorry, that was
Generations. Yeah.
Generations is the one that went straight from TV to movie.
So she has no excuse. She just don't remember it.
No, she talks about how apparently it was during very an important period in the football season.
I see. Okay.
British football, not our football. Yes,
football.
Well, that's priorities. I mean, yeah.
But anyway, it's a hilarious commentary. Probably one of the best commentary tracks on a Star Trek movie.
I'll check it out sometime.
There's a local pizza place because I'm one of those weird people that doesn't like tomato sauce, so my pizza tastes are different. But there is a local place that has a pierogi pizza, which is
okay.
It's
Love a good pierogi.
It's cheese, it's cheese, butter sauce, and pierogies.
Wow.
It's
Interesting.
unhealthy, but I mean it's pizza.
Oh well, yeah.
I'm a pierogi fiend, dude. You're talking to the preaching to the crowd. There was a place in my college that once a year they would have pierogi fest where you'd have essentially unlimited pierogies, and I would make many mistakes.
I do love pierogies.
Yeah. You're not alone in that with the no sauce. My father's pizza order, his standard pizza order is no sauce, double cheese, double ham, double mushroom. So he has a ham and cheese and mushroom.
Take the mushroom off and
sandwich.
I'm with him.
Yeah, I'm not big on the mushrooms either.
I really like when a white pizza has ricotta cheese on it. I think that not as the only cheese, in addition to the mozzarella.
I can't handle ricotta. Even in lasagna, I do not put ricotta in my lasagna. It's just mozzarella.
You don't like the texture? Or?
Yeah, it's a texture thing.
I do like burrata cheese quite a bit.
I've never heard of that.
I know what that is.
It's a type of mozzarella that they take out before it's completely finished, and so it's like extra gooey. It's very tasty. I like it.
Oh, all right.
You had me at gooey.
We need to let this man have the rest of his Sunday.
Yes.
Much as it's fun to sit here and chat.